My name is Frank Sotzik, author of Words of Experience, and I'm with Nicole, who is participating in this open discussion forum. So what do you think, Nicole? Do you think it is an issue for people nowadays, masculinity, or is that only the past?
No, I think it's definitely an issue. I think now more so than probably ever. I think with the sort of proliferation with media and media ideals about what a man is, there is a lot of people who are taking very extreme views and doing very extreme things to try and conform to like a very narrow image of what a man is what a man's meant to be.
Something that came out during the process of writing Words of Experience and sourcing information is that people felt that there should be more discussions of masculinity and topics that were relevant to things. I asked young people in the process of writing Words of Experience, people didn't think there were those types of discussions. So do you think that would actually change things if more people just talked about masculinity and what it meant and whether people were comfortable with it and all these types of things?
Oh, definitely. I think that if there were more discussion, people would, I think when you're having sort of an internal debate about trying to envision where you are, and then when you talk to other people, you realise that how you interpret something is very different to how other people might interpret it for you, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
I think especially in Australia, where we're very multicultural and we're very diverse, I think if you have a look at male stereotypes, it's very white, heterosexual male in media and in advertising, and I think that really damages the possibility of multicultural people defining what a man means in their culture, or even in homosexual as well, defining what a man means in their culture as well. It makes it a very one-sided view.
I believe that you have friends who are straight and friends who are gay and males, and we just briefly talked about that before having this discussion. But what is that culture, do you think? Like, how does it differ from your knowledge of your own friends? If you feel happy to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like mental health-wise, I feel like both have their own, although it's very different issues, and of course I'm saying it's specific to my group of friends, and this isn't like a pattern that I can say is everyone, but I think it's in the same way that my gay friends are very competitive sexually and like even in fashion and even in intelligence. My straight friends are very competitive in appearance and in popularity, and those two both can lead to people feeling inadequate and relying on other people for their own identity.
People should be able to accept the way they look, and that they should understand that other people accept them for the way they look. Do you think that looking at those social values rather than stresses or psychological contributors to the problem might help? That it might be able to be addressed just with values in society rather than anything else?
Definitely. I think that would be more the long-term solution. Would be, I think, for both men and female, for both young women and young men, both with the internet and with such a proliferation of even just technology, I think a lot of them are consuming so many images all day long and consuming different ideologies that are put out there. And I think if there was a celebration in those images about different people who look different or think differently or act differently, then there would be there'll be much more room for those people to make their identity, because they'll be exposed to things. If you don't know something exists, you don't know it's okay, you think that you're the only person like that. So I think if there was a communication that everybody's different and everybody is of equal value, more even in our in sports stars and in even if sports did have such a hierarchy to it, and if television shows and stuff, all of these things have a hierarchy of what an individual is, what a powerful individual looks like or acts like. And I think if that disappeared, then people would be able to, Australia or even globally, will be able to make up a couple of sort of images that are all okay and they're all celebrated in mass culture.
I think a lot of the cases there's much more acceptance that's unspoken, and people don't realise it's really there. And I think a lot of people might be in fear of not being accepted, whereas really a lot of those differences actually would be accepted if it was simply publicised and people knew about it. Like, for example, the issue of being gay in sport is a topical one at the moment. And it turns out that a lot of sports clubs actually accept gay members, quite tolerably without any sort of problems. Yet such acceptance wasn't widely known. So if in that situation, if a person is gay and they are part of a sports club, if they didn't know that everybody was accepting, they'd constantly be in fear of not being accepted without realising that most people don't care.
Yeah.
Images of body proportions, weight, all these things that might contribute to eating disorders, that rather than explicitly say that, that these sort of extremes are okay because they're examples in society, people could simply acknowledge the fact that they accept those differences amongst all the people who do simply accept them, that they're simply more vocal about it and make it obvious that they accept differences in people.
Yeah, well, I think if there is ever a conversation, it should be very two-way. I don't like any didactic conversation about how people should be feeling. I think is a bit worthless. But I think if there is a conversation between, obviously, in terms of the conversation must be between all groups of people. So I think in the case of the football team, I think, if they feel more comfortable about starting the conversation about gay rights in the football team, if it's the straight men on the team that feel that way, then they should definitely feel comfortable to make the first move. And then a conversation had to inform.
Do you think it should always be the person who's perceived to be at the top of some sort of existing hierarchy that should make the first move and produce an all-inclusive environment, that it shouldn't be up to people who might be considered in the minority to raise issues?
I think that's a nice idea. I think it would be a nice idea. I don't think that we can expect those hegemonic groups to do that. I don't think people can wait for people to do that. I think those vulnerable groups need to, as we were talking about before, find some solidarity within each other, and not. I think a lot of time would be wasted, and a lot of people would. A lot of young people would be feeling worse waiting around for the hegemonic group to make the first move, because history tells us that it's often grassroots, vulnerable groups that make changes.
At some stage in my childhood, I was slightly overweight, and occasionally it could be used as a form of insult. And in this case, the people who are doing these types of things aren't necessarily trying to cement a stereotype that gives people a poor sense of body image. All they're doing is just trying to exercise power over somebody else.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily believe in a problem with a person being fat or being overweight. They're just using that difference to their own advantage.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a way of leveraging an improvement when there's no advantage to be gained in telling somebody that that they're different from the main group, that those sort of differences will cease?
I think it's difficult to say because of how we understand power. I think it's very difficult to say that sort of power will ever disappear. But what I will say is that wherever that power, there is an equal force behind. Wherever that power that if it isn't weight, then it'll be another ideal. It's not the ideal. I mean, it's not what is being said, it's the ideal behind it. And what you said is right, it's just a power. So I think wherever there is that power, there is an equal force against it. And I think that just needs to be organised in a way, in a more productive way, like that power is organised.
Because it is with masculinity. And if I know from my own past that if one group of males might have wanted to assert their control of another group of males, they may have said that somebody is a sissy or gay or pufta or whatever expression they might have wanted to use to make that person feel like an outcast.
Yeah.
And whereas that was simply just some form of power play.
Yeah, I would say that it exists in playgrounds all up into retirement homes, I think, and in women and in men, that sort of one-upping each other is a part of human dynamics, and it's a hard thing to come up with a solution to overcome, because it's for many people for a lot of weak people it's a very natural way to gain power. It's a very easy way to gain power for very weak people. So I think
maybe if we look down on that form of gaining power, then less people will want to do it, because as soon as they do, then they are weaklings and they're resorting to a form of climbing a ladder that's inappropriate.
Yeah, I think those people who I think power, you can make a choice whether you give that person that power. So I think those people that are being teased, say, I think that they should recognise that those people are doing it because they're weak, and there should be more education about why people bully, often not because they're strong, but because they're weak. And then we see sort of how we understand the world is that those who are bullies are strong, which is not true. And I think there should be some re-education on how people, why people bully each other.
I would agree with that. It's actually now 5 o'clock, so unfortunately we've got to close.
Yeah, I've got to
finish
hustle
this discussion. But
All right.
thank you for your time, Nicole.
No, pleasure. It's
Appreciate it.
lovely meeting you. Thank you so much.